keep people well.
Yeah, but the ones you're really looking for, the ones who need to get well.
What are you going to do now? Your table disappeared.
I don't know. I think I may have to go home and like ask my wife.
The whole table. Oh my gosh.
Reclaim it.
I don't know, maybe she can help me here. This is really difficult.
This is a happening place. Always something going on there.
That's for sure.
No one comes to you. But they feel great.
No other place
Except
like
a real smart one.
No. I noticed there was a house across the street and one day it's gone.
No one comes to you because they feel great.
I don't know what the plans are this time. I would imagine they would build first 5-story parking garage and then a huge shul.
Network. It's the other way. They don't
Not
see that.
mainly in that order, but.
They see less.
And then they'll knock it down and start over.
Pardon?
They'll knock it down and start over.
They spend about they're there for maybe an hour.
Good morning. I hope you have a table this morning. Yeah, it's still there.
People come in from Wellington, they're feeling good. They're exercising, they're eating healthy, they're just getting tuned up. Keeping their spinal lines.
All the problems maybe.
That's the best way to practice chiropractic. The Jewish community is a whole different challenge because of different.
Luke King Sam, what's up?
What's the factors in the Jewish community? Big families, women don't drive, long days in yeshiva.
I remedied secretly another major problem this morning.
Don't know much about medical health.
No
Medically,
cups.
it's all.
Oh.
Give me that.
How did you get it filled up? Who filled it up for you? It's filled up now.
I did.
Oh, you did it. You found it.
I went upstairs.
Just to clarify a little
I
bit.
don't know what
like I see
happened.
it,
Somebody
like
threw
like
6
that's what
packages
flu,
of
like,
cups
what
at
I'm
me. I
doing.
don't know why.
I think I do.
Must have asked in the wrong way or.
You see my resume.
Well, I'm not talking about resume, I'm talking about like seeing
What I know.
like how I
I
speak
don't know
with
what
my
happened. They
patients.
knocked off my glasses by throwing the
Comes into
cups.
my-
Nothing bad, you know,
In
but
the
it's.
Jewish community, most people come in.
I guess I
when they're in a
answered
crisis.
your own question.
Hey.
What? Not a day of recording, I would say. That's good, that's good.
I walk about 20 miles a week.
Yeah, it's good, it's good. That's good. Yeah. I was just reading.
Good
about
morning,
that.
Tata. How are you?
Yeah, good. Oh, that's good.
Time to wake up, Tatala. Where is the bird? Where the honey?
Oh, yeah.
Zgabe Kalari.
Traumatherapy.
Let's go.
What does that mean?
As opposed to
Well, hey, yeah, you know it too. Time to get up. Let's go.
therapy,
Right.
deals with the brain, you know, I deal with sensations out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's very good.
That's where it's actually healing.
So what I found, you know, is so many people are doing so many different things, you know, unless someone has personal experience with whatever it is, they don't really know what it is. If I never went to an acupuncturist, I can't tell you what acupuncture is like.
The door is acupuncture.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's local.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So,
I'm
Oh,
aware.
yeah,
Chiropractic is a
Shem.
different name, I'm telling you.
No, 100%. We do go to chiropractor, but my chiropractor switched over to emotional behavioral therapy.
Well, he's no longer doing chiropractic.
He does a little chiropractic.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah, because see, I have people that come to me also, they say, oh, I've been to chiropractic before. Actually, I've been to 4 or 5 chiropractors. I know all about it. And then they come in and I give them an adjustment. They said, they never did that before.
Yeah, everybody has their own like little twist on it.
Well, the adjustment is chiropractic. That's the definition of chiropractic. If a chiropractor's not making adjustments, if they're not correcting the solarization, then they're not doing chiropractic. That's the thing about it. It's very, very specific.
Got it. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'll crack my bones.
No, hopefully not.
Right.
This morning I cracked a little bit of firewood. I don't crack bones, I crack firewood. No cracking bones, only crack firewood.
Where's your office?
In my house.
Okay, so one more question here.
Where's my house? You know, Pleasant.
Under the shoe.
Hmm?
Under the shoe.
You know, Pleasant Ridge, Grandview and Ashland, on the other side of 306. You know where Yeshiva Spring Valley Girls School is?
Yeah.
So on the other side of 306.
Okay.
The first right, it's called Grandview.
Oh,
It's
I know
called
that.
Ashland. Yeah, I signed there. Maybe I'll pull it. Yeah, you could, yeah.
Okay, but what are we gonna do now?
The best thing to do.
Oh, I didn't see that. This is a big Rabbi dish.
Before after the hour, so like, you know, that's when I'm there.
I think 1 second. I think I should move this. Alright, better? Sit down. Let me tell you how it looks.
I
think the president's
once told him they did it. My son sends me a picture of me. A friend of his sent him a picture and he says,
We don't make jokes in.
Might be back in business? What's the story?
no, everything's remote. It's automated. I just put the picture.
He just adjusted the tissue box. He adjusted the tissue box.
Okay, I feel better now.
Everything's in the cloud. Alles b'shamayim. Hello b'shamayim. You hear me? Testing.
What would you like to tell millions of
Everybody attention, please.
people that
Everybody
are watching
rise.
from
Just rise.
Eretz Kodesh, Russia?
I got a lot of sleep last night. Went to bed at 9 o'clock. Woke up at 7.
What's the street from my office? Car carrier. Whenever they send cars overseas, so that it's the American flag and Ukrainian flag.
Bruchim abayim. Unser Kabbalas Panem ist das frisch gerecht. Almost.
No, Monday there wasn't a word tomorrow. He's a life type of guy.
I'm going to Israel Mitzvah Shabbos. Nefesh conference. In America. No, Nefesh is, they have a annual 5-day conference of religious therapists from all over. Social workers, therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists. The people I always talk about, you know. That's why Mr. Lamb is not here this morning. That's why Mr. Engel is not here this morning. I don't know if I'm divulging FBI secrets, but that's where they learn what to tell all their patients. I'm just joking. They have a 4 or 5 day convention with workshops and seminars and presentations, and it's in Long Island. So I'm going there for Shabbos. And from there to Eretz Yisrael. So tomorrow morning we'll have a Shir Be'ezer Hashem. Same time. For those of us who work for a living. I don't know. They can eat popcorn in bed and listen. I don't know, what am I supposed to say? But then we're going to be taking a long break again. And we'll resume. Okay. Fine. So we're up to Haltman Chav Ches Amud Aleph. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achol lanu barat. Yeah.
I wanted to mention that yesterday after the shir, when we closed this morning, Rabbi spoke for about 20 minutes afterwards, and I very much advise everyone in the shir to listen to that 20 minutes because it really summarized and brought together a lot of the shir, what you had learned what we had learned inside of the shir, and it was really very excellent.
Probably if you go to the yeshiva.net at the end of the shir, he leaves on the recording, so it's probably there.
It lasts like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
I already listened to it 3 times over. I mean, it's really.
Really?
I'm trying to totally understand it.
Which point was so effective?
Rabbi said that that there's Ein Sof, and through a process of coming down, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the ultimate Ein Sof or being contained, but then there was a breaking and a fragmentation, and now we're in the ultimate fragmentation. There's no more fragmentation. I was wondering about splitting the atom, if it's like a Torah, if it's allowed or not. But there's a fragmentation, and the job of a Jew.
Well, I think splitting the atom is a very powerful scientific metaphor for the spiritual process of Shreya Sakelim.
Yeah, well, some people are doing it, and it's.
Yeah, no, I'm not pro Iran developing nuclear bombs. I'm just.
And Rabbi said that the purpose of a Jew is to bring into the world the awareness that among the fragmentation which Hashem created and which is the reality that we have now, is to bring Hashem, oneness, into the fragmentation, and to recognize that all the fragmentation is really part of the oneness. Use the mushal of the word Baruch. The Rebbe, I think the Alter Rebbe used the Baruch, base, resh, vav, vav. And if it's all together, and with the base and the resh, they all see that they're all part of one unity, then it's good. But if the base
Then it's a blessing.
But if the base feels separated and doesn't recognize the oneness, then that's when the challenges, I guess, come in.
Beautiful. You see the Maila when you give Chazar of the Shir? Takes only 45 seconds. You know how long that would take me to say?
We could go now.
That would take me a whole hour.
I couldn't understand it if I hadn't seen,
You should do that every morning.
We need a mic, a second mic.
Every morning, a Chazara.
Point, counterpoint.
And the symphony, it's a symphony of creation.
Symphony.
With,
You like the symphony.
conductor, but it has to have a conductor. We have to know that there's a conductor.
Yeah. No symphony without a conductor. Yeah. Beautiful. Hishakaycha Rabbi.
Just going on what he said, that if the science is somehow to understand what's going on in the spiritual side. So if you split the atom and make nuclear energy, so when you are translated into the spiritual side, that when you get into the crux of it, you're causing this immense power to come forth into the universe.
But also destructive power. Explosive. I'm talking about in terms of the explosions that are created. How things break up from explosions.
For me, the biggest chiddush of the conductor is he doesn't say one word.
In every symphony.
Yeah.
In every symphony, the conductor never speaks, never says a word, and doesn't really. And when you look at it from the surface, all he does is he's making with his hands. He's sweating away. Springt wie he's jumping and leaping and sweating and working, but he doesn't say a word. And the audience can't even see his face till he bows down at the end.
The people who are playing are not even looking at him. They're looking at the sheet.
Right. It's fascinating because this conductor is voiceless. He's not giving instructions, right? He's not communicating in any way. But in his silence, he embodies the symphony, the whole organization of it.
He's communicating.
I mean, he's communicating with his hands.
Our
with his gestures.
Our conductor is greater because our conductor does communicate with us constantly. Say Modeh first thing in the morning, wash your hands, do this, do that, do that. You know, say,
Yeah.
our conductor's better.
Okay, so let's move from here.
No, you're not, just because you're not picking up the messages doesn't mean he's not trying to send to you. Every single day.
The whole Torah is Hashem speaking to us.
There's a term that's very well known, and it's used here often, in this mimer as well. It's called Birur HaNetzutzos. Whoever dabbled a little bit in the works of Machshava, of Kabbalah, certainly of Chassidus, knows the term Birur HaNetzutzos, literally the elevation or the clarification or the sublimation of the sparks. Most people here who grew up in Hasidic communities heard this term at Shalashudas or at various classes or shiurim or drushes by their teachers or rebbes or whoever, or sheshivas. Very, very common in Hasidic cultures and circles, all of them. There's a very often used term more than in other communities called nitzotzos and birur hanitzotzos, right? Emes? There's sparks, and the sparks have fallen, and you have to elevate the sparks, and there's nitzotzos. It's a very common term. And yet, if you'll ask many people who grew up with it what it means, they're usually clueless about it. Some sparks flying everywhere, and these sparks, and I don't know, there's always problems with these sparks. And I have all these, there's a lot of customs around these sparks, like Shoivavim, Tato, and many other traditions that are all there because of the, because of the sparks, these sparks that have to be, I don't know, rescued or redeemed or emancipated or liberated, or they're just a mess. These sparks are just messed up pretty badly, and you are usually messing them up much worse than they are. And if you can get your act together, you will do some big benefit for the sparks. So it's like a term, Birur HaNetzutzos, Birur HaNetzutzos. The reason is because it's quoted so much in Svarim. It didn't come from nowhere. One of the beautiful elements of this mimer is that the Baal HaTanya, the Alter Rebbe, actually explains the words Birur HaNetzutzos, relatively speaking, in such an elaborate and clear way that one can actually relate to it in a very real way and understand the profound meaning of these words. And maybe the best way to describe it is, this is what I was saying yesterday after the shiur, is that essentially the whole world is a symphony. If you ever went to a symphony, there are symphonies that number hundreds of musicians, not 20, hundreds. Symphonies of a few hundred musicians, each one playing a unique instrument. Sometimes you have many playing the same instrument, but overall you have so many diverse instruments, and they have to play different instruments. But there is a symphony, there is a song, a ballad that is being conveyed through all the musicians, through all the instruments, with so many different notes within each song. Every ballad, every song has so many different notes, and the notes come together, the musicians come together, the instruments, the orchestra's instruments, musical instruments come together. And for somebody who appreciates music, a music connoisseur, there are few things that are as elating and elevating and inspiring as the resonance and the sounds of that music. And people who love music and are passionate about music, could often melt away in delight and pleasure and ecstasy from that experience. Now, there are symphonies and there are symphonies. There's different levels of symphonies and of conductors and directors and of course composers. But what's the uniqueness of a symphony? It's the harmony, it's the unity of so many diverse people and instruments and notes all coming together in that powerful journey, which is a symphony. The symphony itself goes through so many stages because there's different motions and different experiences through which the music takes one through. in that sense, what we're learning here is, if I could use this mashal, is that essentially the whole world is a symphony. It's a musical symphony. But a symphony is not the obliteration of the differences of people. Everyone is not playing the same thing. It's the convergence, it's the unity, the integration of so many different forces coming together. If you really look at it, every organism, you look at your body, it's a symphony. There's 40, 50 trillion cells, and some say now there are more. And 40 is already considered an old number. But 40 trillion is a pretty big number. You could try to do it on paper. 40 trillion will take you a while. It won't take 40 trillion years, but it'll take a while. And but in a healthy body, the integration, the unity with which all of the limbs and organs work, and all the cells and the genome and the tissue and the bones and the veins and the arteries, all beginning in the brain. The brain is like the literal conductor. Agan Satag, he's very busy. It's an incredible thing because of how many details, far more incredible than a symphony. A Hakten Cup, yeah. They have in science something called a superorganism. Superorganism means when it's not one body working together, where you'll have like a colony of ants. You'll have millions and millions and millions of ants, and somehow they work together as though it was one organism. It's called a superorganism. We're like in a beehive. I was once in a beehive. There were close to 100,000 bees. But they all know how to work together. And it's essential, because they're not working together, nobody survives. Everybody does different jobs, but there's always one purpose. The purpose is the existence, the perseverance, the survival, the preservation of the ant colony, the beehive. And they'll go on Mesiras Nefesh for it. And everyone has, the queen has her job, of course, she's the queen. She's the conductor. And then there's the work bees who live for 30 days, and then there's the male bees who are just there for, what men are good for, 3-4 days, and then they're, et cetera, et cetera. The honey, the beehives, but it's incredible because it's not one organism, it's not one brain. One brain in one body tells me what to do and I follow it. But my brain can't control your life unless through dictatorship. But in these super organisms, it's a fascinating thing. 100 million insects, or 50 million insects, or 1 million insects, or 5 million insects, or whatever the number is, 40,000, are working in complete synchronization. And they didn't go to university for this. Nobody's getting paid. There's no incentives. There's no bonuses for New Year's. There's no New Year parties, right? For those in corporate America. Nothing of it. But somehow, nobody even gave them a Musa speech about Birur HaNitzaitzis. Nobody told them, guys, you got to work together. If not, we're dead. It's genetically embedded in them. They somehow figure out what to do, know what to do. They come out and negate. It's like a code that's inside of me. It's like a Shulchan Aruch that's inside of me. I don't have to read it. I don't have to learn about it. I don't even have a choice. It's not like there's a bad day. Now the bee wakes up one morning and says, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood. I'm not going to work. This is all humans. But there's also I'm not going to work. It's like you don't even get lazy. There's no this is who you are. No tree says we're stopping to grow. I'm not contributing to the environment anymore. It's time for retirement. Huh? Over there, I'm giving a mashal. Yeah, Shviras HaKelim affected the whole world. So essentially, the whole world is a symphony. The whole world is this symphony. And it's playing a niggin. It's a niggin. What's the niggin? The mashal there's the niggin of Baruch. But Baruch is just a metaphor. Right? The niggin is far more elaborate than Baruch because you're dealing with so many details. We're not just dealing with humans. We're dealing with animals and mammals and fish and reptiles and birds and insects and all living organisms and trees and bushes and fruits, vegetables, and stars and galaxies, earth and heaven, waters, the entire planet, plus the entire universe, beyond our planet, the entire cosmos. And that's just the physical universe that we observe. And there's the spiritual universes. It's really a symphony. It's a symphony of complete unity. It sings a song. However, each one has its unique chemistry. I am I, and you are you. The tree is the tree, and the turtle is the turtle. The crocodile is the crocodile, and the catfish is the catfish, and the cheetah is the cheetah, and the black hole is the black hole. And the maple tree or the cedar tree is the cedar tree, but it's part of a niggin. This is that every one constitutes a unique instrument or a unique note in the song. And it plays its instrument, it plays the song through its unique method, through its unique chemistry. And that's what a nitzutz means. A nitzutz means the inner music of who you are. Yeah, the word nitzutz even comes from the word misnoitzetz, which means you glitter, you flicker, you spark, like sparkle. Misnoitzetz, you sparkle. It's your spark. You know when you say your spark, it's your oomph, it's your energy, it's who you are, or to put it differently, it's the divine core of your being. It's Hashem's will that you should be here, which is the purpose of who you are, and it ultimately makes up the inner vitality of every single created being. The challenge is that these netzutzas are divided particles. I have mine, you have yours. What does birur hanetzutzas really means? Birur hanetzutzas really means to be able to identify the godliness in you, to be able to identify the spark in you. Birur from the word boirer, like in Shabbos, right? Boirer. You clarify, you dissect, you extract it, you identify it. And when that happens, you're restored back to the symphony of who you really are. So that the nitzotzes come together and create that achdus, that oneness. Beis Reish Vav Chaf, as the mashal we learned, is the classic example for that. The Beis, essentially, when it's together with Reish Vav Chaf, what is it? It's a keli that channels a certain oir. In other words, what is the Beis? The Beis is an expression of Baruch through the Beis, and the Reish is an expression of Baruch through the Reish, without competition. Each one, by being itself, conveys and is a channel for that energy. Who are you? Yeah, you are a channel of divinity. You are a manifestation of God's infinite light in this world. That's who you are. Who am I? Same. Through me being me. And the same is true with every single created being in its own unique way. And therefore, there's complete oneness. Oneness doesn't mean that Beis and Reish look the same. They don't have to look the same. They can't even look the same. But it's like the jigsaw puzzle. No two pieces are the same. If it would be the same, you wouldn't have the puzzle. Pieces are different, but they're part of a puzzle. And they fit with each other. They work together. And it's that jigsaw puzzle that creates a mosaic. It creates a tapestry. It creates that singular piece of art. The same is true with what an architect does in a home. The Rambam says in Hilchos Shabbos that the definition, he says that curdling milk into cheese is a toilda of meleches boina. You're not allowed to do construction on Shabbos. And he says curdling milk into cheese is construction on Shabbos. What's the connection? You wouldn't think that curdling milk into cheese would be meleches boina. Boina sounds like putting up a building, pitching a tent, constructing a home. Where's the boina of curdling? So the Rambam says the definition of boina is you take different chalakim, you take different pieces that are separate, and you create one entity, one holistic guf. That is the definition of boina in halacha. He's really trying, what's a structure? What's a structure? The chiddush of a structure is you come into a building, you come into what the architect did, what the engineer did, what the contractor did, right? All the details to work together to become now, it's not a screw, it's not a counter, it's not a table, it's not a wall, it's not a pipe, it's a home. If you were dealing with a fine contract. If not, it's a pipe, it's a screw, it's a window, and nobody knows what's flying. There's also that. But in the real binyan, you walk in, there's endless details, but they're not details. There's a home. They're all essential to the home. Again, it's a symphony. So Bidur HaNitzutzos really means to be able to identify yourself not as an isolated base, but as part of a divine symphony, which of course transforms the person from an isolated being into an expression of infinity, of God's light. And therefore, there's also no ribuy, there's no multiplicity, and no machloikis. There's achdus, there's unity, there's oneness. Just like that symphony, it's all about oneness. It's all about integration. So, Ata Echad, you're one. V'shimcha Echad, your name is one. What does it mean your name is one? We say in Mincha, right? Ata Shabbos, Ata Echad v'shimcha, your name is one. There's a difference between you and your name. You're one, okay, you're one. Your name is one means your expression is one. Your name is how you affect other people. The name is how you're known by other people. How do I know you? I know you through your name. I know you through your reputation. A name is always the way you're projected. You say, he has a good name, she has a good name, right? We know people through their name. I don't only mean their name, Chaim, Yankel, Yossel. I mean their name in terms of their reputation and their identity. I don't know your core. I know you through your name. I watch you. I know you through your light, through your expression. I hear you speak. I watch your gestures. I sit with you. I spend time with you. I know the light that I get from you. That's called your shimcha. For shimcha, your light, your projection is also echad. Meaning, there's Hashem himself. There's the way Hashem emits light to sustain the whole universe. That's also echad. It's also one. It's also all oneness. But shviras hakela means that the world looks like anything but a symphony. Because the shattering of the vessels means that Beis defines itself as a Beis, Reish as a Reish. I sing my own song. And at some point I even stop singing my song. I'm just singing whatever I come up with. Every musician, it's like, imagine the conductor is gone and chaos, mayhem ensues. How long can a symphony last without a conductor? Anybody knows? Let's say the conductor geht schlafen. They still have their notes.
It devolves into cacophony.
Right, why? Even though they have their notes, it's interesting. Why?
Because we see the symphony, the performance it's undergone days and weeks and maybe sometimes months of training together, besides all the
Right.
years of training each one did.
Right.
But that's individual. It's individual, and it starts to come together. Once he's there, and he has his baton, and everyone knows what's about to happen, they wait for those cues. They're looking at their notes, no question about it. They know their instrument, but he is synthesizing it. He's bringing it all together. When he starts bringing it together, it starts to develop.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. If the conductor leaves, and everybody has notes, it will not last. It just ultimately it becomes a cholent and a churban. Yeah, and that's even though they have their notes. Kol shekain, if you don't have notes, then it's just like I was as a child in yeshiva. I was in a choir, so I remember we were once at a concert with Mordechai ben David and Joe Amar, Olav Hashalom. And those chevra, and it was our turn, and there was a classmate actually of mine near me, and he started to sing a different song, and I kicked him, or somebody else kicked him, so he sang but a completely different pitch, and the head of our choir master, Eli Lipsker, Olav Hashalom. Yeah, I saw his face. He literally wanted to shoot the poor kid. Because there's nothing like, one person singing a different song. Or just a completely different beat, completely different pitch. It was like, the kid was doing the best he can. But it's like you're completely out of that symphony. So the truth is also in life, In life, it's like either you're in sync with the music, or you're not in sync with the music. Sometimes I just want to play my own song, or I want to play my own beat. I'm not in sync in the music, with the music, with the beat of life. So the Birur HaNitzutzos in that sense is identifying the nitzutz for what it is. And that's what it means to elevate the spark. Why do you have to elevate it? You have to elevate the base from thinking that it's an isolated, lonely creature, right? That just has to struggle to figure itself out, to realizing that it's part of an infinite symphony. That's what elevating a spark is. I almost bring it back. I bring it back to the Baruch. You bring the Reish back, I bring the Beis back, you bring the Vav back, you bring the Chav back. It's also within yourself to bring back everything. It's not just me versus you, or me together with you. It's even within ourselves. There's so many different voices. There's so many different conflicting moods, right? All of us. One day you're on a high, the other day you're on a low. One morning you feel like you're flying, the other morning you're in the abyss. One day, everything is rosy. The next day you're not sure why you're alive, why you're alive, and what your future is. And each one, everything has a nitzutz. There's nothing that doesn't have a nitzutz. So the word nitzutz is really a very sophisticated word. It means seeing the true core and content of anything. Its ultimate, breaking it down to its ultimate core. Scientifically, we know that's the function of science, to break down everything and figure out what it really is. It's what every good electrician does. It's what every good plumber does. It's what every good architect does. It's what every good psychologist does. It's what every good physician does. It's what every good physicist does. Right? This is what we do. This is what every good car mechanic does and computer engineer does. We're breaking it down. We open the car and you open the hood. I don't, but those who do open the hood. And that's what every person fixing a flat tire does. You got to check out what's going on. So that's what we're doing. We're dissecting it, going to the core. The nitzutz is the ultimate core. What's the ultimate core? The ultimate core is that you're part of Ein Sof. That's the ultimate core. And I want to go there. I want to show that. I want to find that. You're not a base. You're not a flying letter alone in the universe, forlorn, traumatized, depressed. You're part of the Ein Sof. But for this, I want to discover your nitzutz and bring it back. Mamish, that's what quite literally elevated. I want to bring you back to this. You're in the symphony. The symphony is playing. You can't quit. Even if you think you could quit, you are this. This is who you are. You're a divine. You may think you're a depressed loser, but it's not who you are. It's not who you are. There's a symphony playing. They once asked the Baal Shem Tov why the Hasidim are so happy. The Baal Shem Tov instituted that in the world of Hasidim they should be able to be happy and dance even for no good reason. Middle of a day to go atensel to this. They asked him, "What is this about?" Like Jews, especially in Gullus, should be a little more depressed and downtrodden and so forth. So the Baal Shem Tov said an amazing much. The Toldos Yaakov Yosef brings this, I think, his student. I forgot which sefer. I think the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. An unbelievable thing the Baal Shem Tov said. He said there was a person who was playing music in the street. You have these people, and he was a brilliant musician. Brilliant. He was playing the violin or the guitar in the street. And people who loved music stopped. And suddenly a whole circle formed around him. And without even knowing it, they just started to, you start dancing, you hear music, you don't even know it, you start and it happens to you. You just start moving around and dancing and singing. And sometimes you really get consumed by it. And that's what's just happening. He just drew everybody in. You couldn't resist it. And the Baal Shem Tov says, and suddenly the whole city was dancing. The metaphor of the Baal Shem Tov. And then he said there was a man walking to work. And he sees hundreds of people in this town, thousands of people dancing. And he thinks to himself, this whole town went crazy. Poshet Meshugoyim. It's the middle of the day, regular day. It's not a chasana, not a bar mitzvah. It's an ishkim bris. It's not a pidyon aben. Nobody came out of some tragedy. It's a regular day, and everybody is dancing. And he has concluded that his whole town lost its mind and went insane. Baal Shem Tov said there was one challenge. The man was deaf. That was his answer to this person. Okay, think about that answer. He says, this man was deaf. He says, you can't judge. But that was the answer. That's it. He says, that makes the difference. If a person is deaf, they're deaf.
Are we trying to fix Kalim, or are we recognizing that all the Kalim are broken and they can't be fixed, and that's the reality?
No.
So the I thought that we were at the ultimate fragment.
Shviras HaKelim is a perception. It's a reality, but it's not an inherent, intrinsic, eternal reality. The Achdus of Einoid Malvada is a real thing. The symphony is playing. It's my awareness of it that makes all the difference. You understand? He says, Marab, so what does a Jew do in the morning? You say the first thing before Kriya Shema. And it has a whole other meaning now. Marabu Masacha Hashem. In this world, you're going to see endless Rabu. It's not just the multitudes. That's really beautiful, the grandness of nature. But Rabu also in terms of multiplicity, the differentiation and the division and the fragmentation. Everybody is on their own trip. I'm trying to make my couple of bucks. You're trying to make your couple of bucks. This is a world of especially for thousands of years, war, violence, bloodshed. This is the nature of the beast. I take care of me, you take care of you. And so you look at a world marabu, everything is different, everything is singular, everything is individualistic. But kulam b'chachma sisa. But really they're all come from chachma, and with chachma, with awareness, a sisa, you repair it all. It all becomes, it's really part of a single symphony. The question is if I can operate on that level of consciousness or not.
So is it two parts? Separating and then identifying the nitzutz and then making it back?
Yeah. So first of all, I have to identify that there's a nitzutz. And that's an amazing idea. Really identifying that you're not your trauma, you're not your depression, you're not your problem, you're not all that. Find a nitzutz there. And in everything there's a nitzutz. There's no such a thing somebody doesn't have a nitzutz. If it exists, there's a nitzutz there. A nitzutz is the thing from God's perspective. Because it's alive. There's a heartbeat, there's electricity there. What's the godly electricity of this insect, of this emotion, of this person, of this day, of this moment? It's identifying the koyach elaki in it. You understand the mahus of it. And then you could bring it back. You could bring yourself back. And according to the Balatanya, in this Maimah, he says, Zois Teiras Ha'adam. This is the purpose of life. Zois Avodas HaYisrael. Goy echad ba'aretz. Ata echad, v'shimcha echad on the top from your perspective. But then there's only fragmentation. Then comes in the Jew. And what does he say? Goy echad ba'aretz. The nation that reveals echad, where? In earth. In heaven, pre-shviras hakelim, or in higher worlds, it's much easier. Because remember, in Bri, Yitzira, the fragmentation is much less. The chiddush is, the novelty is ba'aretz, to be megala the echad.
Rabbi mentioned yesterday that in the situation of a family, let's say, then there's no choice of estrangement. You want to fix the Kalim.
Yeah.
If someone is approached by a violent,
Yeah, listen.
then you have to run away.
You have to know the situation. Maybe you say, you go to your symphony. In other words,
Family, it's everywhere.
huh?
It's not only in family, it's everywhere. If you have toxic environments, then they don't want to realize this, and so you can't do things like that together.
If you're in a toxic environment, you have to protect yourself, of course. Huh? But very often you have to realize, and this is not so easy, that sometimes the toxicity of the environment has sometimes to do with me, with my toxicity. So you got to do bir hanetzutzes over there too.
Practice
everyone who's speaking to this group, myself for sure, is as fathers, as Zadis, as teachers, our interaction with others. I know one of my sons, for example, has been having a problem in business now for a couple of years. It's a theme to it. And so when he calls me about it, because of my position as being A, his father, B, decades on the planet, so I have an overview of it and then pointing it out to him and helping him work through. So he's able to synthesize into his situation much better and have success.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So there's identifying the nitzuts, which is not easy. Birur, boirer. In Hilchas Shabbos, we always say, what's boirer? Boirer is you got to separate. You got to find the toiv, right? Boirer, you take the good out of the bad. You got to find the nitzuts. What does it mean, find the nitzuts? Find that truth in you, and believe in it and embrace it. Your goodness, your infinity, your Ein Sof, your godliness. And even in everything there's a nitzutz. And that's ultimately its purpose. The nitzutz is the purpose for why it was created. It's its ultimate song. It's the Dvar Hashem, it's the divine energy of it. And then when I can identify it, I can sublimate it. And the base goes back to the word, Baruch, in that metaphor.
Can you give an example?
An example?
How to practically do this?
Huh? So give. Kan sagen auf Yiddish, huh?
Is it that, let's say one day I don't learn that day, I destroyed the whole symphony? A conductor can hear, if someone's out sick, there's 100 people, he'll know someone's missing.
The famous Toscanini story.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
You've heard me tell that story.
I think that's what I've heard.
Arturo Toscanini, the Italian conductor. Yeah.
So that means
The real conductor knows when a violinist doesn't show up. That's what the Gemara said. The Mishnah says in Sanhedrin, Chayev Adam Loimar, B'shvili Nivra Ha'olam. What is this? You're crazy arrogant? The world was created for you, really? B'stoit Meshige?
Only the conductor.
Huh?
I mean, in a sense.
But in other words, it's not about guilt. Guilt, oh, I destroyed the world. It's about opportunity. It's about the value of a person. B'shvili nivra ha'olam means the world was created for me. So the world was created for me, the world was created for you, the world was created for you. I mean, we call that narcissism. My family was created for me, my wife everybody was created for me. So there's nobody else, there's only me. Everybody is a mirror. I just see me. It's the opposite. B'shvili nivra ha'olam means that there's something in your life that the whole world needs. That's what it means. It's a glorious concept. It means there's something indispensable about you. You'll say, yeah, but I'm not showing up. For the conductor, it makes a difference. For the symphony, it makes a difference. I may not be so sensitive, so you don't show up. Geh gesundheit. But it means something. So it's not about trying to make people feel guilty for not showing up. It's really about impressing on the human being the value of his or her existence and avoida at every moment.
Is there a Gemara asks if somebody goes to shul every day, doesn't show up on
Yeah.
Hashem asks,
Who is er? And Marim Brachas. He doesn't show up one day. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, "Where are you?" It's exactly what it means.
Only God could realize that something is missing.
God and your mother usually, and your wife and your mother-in-law. There's another few people who realize.
The mother-in-law of the choices.
The mother does Nishna Tzait, his mother is the mother-in-law. And your mother-in-law is Dar Nitzitz.
She's the conductor.
Depends in some people's lives, she's the conductor. Yeah.
Question that he asked, like I had an experience recently where I was stopped by police, and he was incredibly aggressive and scary.
Yeah.
And I went out, I was in a pretty good headspace, and he couldn't handle my bringing oneness into the situation. And I had to, wait for him to write the ticket and everything, and then leave. But that's a situation where I would run from. Now, if I'm with my family, with my children, and there's some type of tension or something, it's a situation I don't want to run away from. I want to make it better. So that's one place you run to. Another place you want to take a breath, speak, ask, speak
Yeah.
peacefully, try to make peace.
They say there was an Israeli driver who was mamish 150, 200 kilometers per hour. He's flying, which in Israel is not so fast. And a policeman stops him finally at one of the kvishim, one of the highways. And the policeman opens the window. He opens the window. The policeman comes, he's rubbing his hands. He says, I've been waiting for you all day. For you. I didn't even give one ticket today. Everybody here is behaving. I've been waiting for a guy like you all day. So this Jew looks at him and says, yes, I know that. And that's why I came here as fast as possible. It worked, yeah. He liked it so much. He said, be careful next time and geh gesundheit. Huh? So the ability to be able to, hold your mind that way. I came here as fast as I can. I knew how much you need me. Huh?
Why is he running away from the police officer? If it happened to him, that means it's something.
No, listen. Sometimes people are in a very bad mood. They're obnoxious, and we know that. That's part of. That's why it's a world of shviras hakelim. It's a world where instinctively you don't sense this. One has to always work on it. I said, I think yesterday after the shir, that the purpose of davening every morning is really exactly this: to bring the world back together. That's why the Jew wakes up in the morning, he davens. Davening is not a repetitive process. It's really a very deep process. Even if it's for some person, it's a few minutes, but it's a few minutes where you're really almost getting up from bed, and intuitively, we're living in a fragmented, broken world, and the Jew is protesting it and saying, no, goy echad ba'aretz. The whole davening, Psukei de Zimra, from Moida Ani Lefanecha, through Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, through Aleinu L'Shabeach, it's all the goy echad ba'aretz. It's to claim and maintain that there's oneness, that there is a symphony, that every spark is essentially another note in a cosmic divine symphony, and every person and every creature is playing a unique instrument in these songs. We have a unique note, we have a unique instrument, we have a unique musician, and so forth, and we have a unique conductor, which brings it all together. So that's the goy echad ba'aretz. So from many, you make one. God made from one many, or he allowed from one to come many, and we do the reverse. We make from many one. It's almost like we reveal the signature, the autograph of Hashem in everything. It's like you reveal the autograph of Hashem in everything. And when you reveal that autograph in everything, there's one autograph. It's all one autograph. They're all the signature of God, manifesting it through their unique handwriting, through their unique personality. And that's the revolutionary contribution of Judaism, to be able to come back and say, it's echad. That's what Avraham Avinu began teaching. And all of Torah and mitzvahs, as he says, is the Zois Avodas HaYisrael. All of Torah and mitzvahs is there to reveal the unity in just another form and another fashion. Every single mitzvah. That's why the Gemara says in Shabbos that Hillel told a non-Jew who wanted to learn the whole Torah on one leg, he said that the whole Torah is about love. What you dislike to be done to you, don't do to anybody else. The Gemara says in Maseches Shabbos Lamed Aleph, Daf Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph, Mada Allah Sani L'Chavrach Lo Yisav Zel Kol HaTorah Kula. The whole Torah is that, and everything else is commentary. Now go study the commentary. Now, what did Hillel mean? How could you say that's the whole Torah? The whole Torah is love, unity. That's not the whole Torah. That's part of Torah. It says V'ahavta l'recha kamoicha. It says don't lie. It says don't steal. It says don't cheat. It says you got to pay your employees by nighttime or by next morning. But it doesn't say it's not the whole Torah. Come on. People are learning now Maseches Nida. What does that have to do with love or whatever you're learning? Zvachim and Nachas Chulin. Shabbos, Erevin, Psachim, Shkolim, where's the love here? Sukkah, Beitza, Tainus. Mela, the three Bavis, part of it is about civil relationships. The whole Torah is that. What does tefillin have to do with love? What does not eating shrimp have to do with love? What does fasting and Yom Kippur have to do with love? What does lighting Chanukah have to do with love? What does reading a Megillah and Yom Kippur have to do with love? Yeah. But the truth is that all love, the Tanya says in chapter 32, Perek Lev, the heart, Perek Lev of Tanya, he says that I once heard from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He said over for this Tanya, so he said Alter Rebbe put it in Perek Lev. This is the hearts from Tanya. It's the heart of Tanya. So while Tanya says that all love comes from recognizing, I'm saying it in my words, all love comes from recognizing that there's a symphony here, that you and I are really connected. And that only comes when you could reveal the nitzutz, when you could reveal the neshama, when you could reveal the soul of something. The deeper you go into something, the more you could reveal the oneness of the world. The more external you are, the less you see the oneness. And it's true in all science and physics. The deeper you go into something, the more you see the patterns, the relationships, the interconnectedness, until you reach the trying to reach now the string theory, where there's only oneness in everything. So in the person, it's also true. The deeper I go into myself, the more I could connect with you, because there is so much oneness there. I'm a chelik elikamal, and you're a chelik elikamal. You're a piece of Hashem, I'm a piece of Hashem. And they said the whole time, Hillel was saying, the whole Torah is to be able to find that unity within yourself, that unity within the world. Every mitzvah in its own way, in its own character, but that's what it is. And therefore, the Jews are called Goy Echad Ba'aretz, the ones who reveal Echad in the Eretz. Okay, so this was, you gave your introduction, I gave my introduction. We see the difference as I rest my case. Who's giving Chazara tomorrow? I'm not giving Chazara tomorrow. That's like a bli neder.
You weren't lying when you said it now.
Huh? I wasn't lying, no.
No, but this helps when you're learning this. It helps a lot how you take it out to yourself.
That's the main thing. The main thing is how you take it into yourself. If you don't take it into yourself, it's it's nice Torah, but it doesn't. It's not fulfilling its purpose. You're not finding the nitzitz. It's just on paper. It's not.
It can never be corrected.
Why?
It can be corrected from individual perspective, but not as a group.
Why not?
Not everybody's in the gym.
Well, you'll bring another friend, and he'll bring another friend, and sooner or later, everybody will be in the share. Remember, they're also part of the symphony.
Yeah. They're playing separately.
Huh?
They're playing separately.
So you said yesterday when enough people have pratis, gila pratis, then
Gula pratis, gula klolis.
yeah, like the 100th monkey theory, like when there's enough people that
The hush puppy, the tipping point,
yeah,
critical mass.
right. And then the Mashiach comes. Then the Mashiach comes, I guess.
Yeah, it's all undoing Shviras HaKelim. The Kelim could become whole, and when the Kelim become whole, they could contain that light again. That's the point. You undo the Shviras HaKelim. You look at the broken pieces. This is what it is. You look at the broken pieces, and you say you're not really broken. You're part of wholeness, and that's the difference of trauma versus not trauma. Are you broken or you're not broken? One of the most powerful, for many years of dealing with, I'm not a therapist, as you know, I'm not a psychologist, I have no training, but one of the things I've seen with boys and girls who have experienced sexual abuse as children or as teenagers, or all forms of abuse, but just this I've seen it disproportionately, is that they inside feel really broken. I'm literally like a broken bowl, like a broken piece of china, mamish broken. They're broken. And they feel it, and that's how they look at themselves. I'm broken, I'm damaged. They even use the word, I'm damaged goods. What does damaged goods means? You know, you come into the store, it's broken. Take it for 10 cents. So I'm worth 10 cents, right? That's the one of very practical. You asked, who asked about the practicality? Oh, he left. Shviras HaKelim. I'm a broken person. I'm talking in its ultimate manifestation. The Shviras HaKelim on more subtle levels, but, right? And what's the avodah here? The avodah here is your spark became so isolated from the symphony, from everything. You don't even see it as a spark anymore. You call it a curse. You don't even see your spark. You don't even see the sparkle in the eye. You know what I mean? I once heard a conductor speak. His name is a Jewish guy from Boston, Zandman. He leads the, I believe, Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. His name is Benjamin Zandman. He's a British. I think they escaped the Nazis, and he lives in America. I think he's the head. So he once spoke, and he said something very powerful. He said, as a conductor, I don't say a word. But with the baton, I sweat, I run. He said, and then I get all the credit. I didn't do anything. He said, the musicians did. Why do the conductors, everybody applauds the conductor? I didn't do anything. They played the music. Yeah. So he was just talking about that. He was bringing out what a conductor is. But then he said, how do I know I'm successful? How do I know I'm a successful conductor? How do I know I'm doing a good job? And then he says, I look at the people, and I look into their eyes, and I see that their eyes are on fire. I see a sparkle in their eyes. I know I'm successful. That's what he said. And I thought it's a very powerful message, like for a teacher. How do you know you're a successful teacher? You look in their eyes, and you see a sparkle, Huh? No, what's the answer? Can I see? Actually, in you I do, yeah. In you I do, yeah. Yeah, you could see. You see the sparkle in his eyes? Yeah, and it's so true. In other words, he says, as a conductor, my job is not to do what I have to do. My job is to what we're calling here the bitter hanitzutzes, to extract the sparks. When a person feels broken, their nitzutz, it's so hidden, it's so separated. It's like in shells. Another word, a lot of Hasidim grow up with is klippus. Nitzutzis and klippus. And the nitzutzis are trapped in the klippus. And it sounds like this crazy mystical term that nobody knows, but it's really one of the most powerful psychological statements. It means your spark is encased in shells, like a walnut. A walnut? And you got to take a cracker, and you got to crack it. So to get that spark in a person's eyes means you extract them from their shells, from their husks, which the trauma created, which the brokenness created. The brokenness told the bays that you're not part of anything, and you just go into hiding, and that's where you're going to survive. So that's a very dramatic and traumatic manifestation of Shviras HaKelim. And that little spark in that keli goes into hiding in a cave, and that's it. And the person operates based on their shells and their husks. So to be able to open that up and extract it, and then bring it back to the symphony, that's where life begins. That's where relationships begin. It's an incredible idea.
Yesterday you mentioned that when someone...
And this is 1805. This is 150 years before psychoanalysis, psychology, therapy even didn't exist in the vocabulary of people. But the model here is... it's probably one of the most powerful models for healing and understanding human nature, and also the synchronization between Judaism and psychology becomes incredible, right? When he says all of Yiddishkeit, Zois Avodas HaYisrael, is to be megala this achdus.
Getting a preview for the Nefesh presentation.
The psychology and psychiatry, everything is about 3,000 years behind the times,
No, there's a lot of goodness to it, but you can't compare. When you have this depth, when you have this understanding, it gives it a whole different resonance.
Yesterday,
The psychologist himself shouldn't be working out of Shviras HaKelim. Psychologist himself can't be a victim of Shviras HaKelim. If you want to heal others, or help them heal, I should say, you don't heal others, but if you want to help them heal, you have to come from that place. It's a very different place. I asked a therapist who's been learning here a lot on the phone, and I asked him he's a very good psychologist, very good, excellent. I asked him what the Chassidus did for him in terms of his work, patients. He said, what it did for me is that I started to look at myself in a different way. So I look at my patients in a different way. He said, I started to know myself in a different way. I started to see a vocabulary that's different than myself. So automatically everything changes. It's not one detail, another detail. I figured out a way to talk about this or that. It's a whole different amkos in a person.
Yesterday you mentioned that Rabbi mentioned that when someone's in a lot of pain, sometimes when the base is separated, they'll go seek it. They'll make a different reality for themselves.
Tomorrow there's a shir, okay?
Oh.
Tomorrow there's a shir.
Good.
Yeah, Blinander. Yeah.
Make sure, Israel
I'll tell him to put it on the.
Rabbi mentioned yesterday that when someone's in a lot of pain, when the base is, so to speak, separated from the baruch, they'll try to create a separate reality, a new reality, and romanticize.
Yeah, very hard. Yeah.
Romanticize.
Yeah.
Does that mean
When you
that
romanticize your shvira sakelim, it's a new shvira.
so that means that they make like their new separate
Yeah.
reality, like, oh, that's the way.
Yes,
that's
because
the
I'm in
way it's
pain. I'm in
supposed
too
to
much
be.
pain. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's like when a child tells a father, I don't need you anymore. You're not my father. What is it? I needed you so much and you weren't here for me. And I can't live with that. It's too much. So what do? I don't need you. You understand what's happening? It's the child saying, I needed you so much. It's the exact opposite. I needed you so much. If I wouldn't have needed you so much, I don't have to tell you you're not my father. Why do I have to tell that to you? He doesn't know that it's not true, that your father is your father. I needed you so much, and you couldn't be here for me. For whatever reason, I'm not now blaming or judging anybody. It's not about that. Right? But you weren't here for me. And the pain is searing. It's what am I supposed to do? So what does my brain tell me to do? You're not my father anymore. Who needs this guy? This guy's not my father. He's not an idiot. He's a crazy guy. He's not my father. Wonderful. And if I could convince that to myself, so there's no pain for not being with you. If you're not my father, what do I need you? A stranger.
What's the other option for that person?
What do you think?
If they follow
In other words, he took the shvira and he made a philosophy out of it. You see, once I understand what happened before, he took the shvira and he made a philosophy out of it. And sometimes they both.
What is the option of surviving is what he's asking.
Okay, so fine.
What's his other?
No. Again, I understand what he's doing, but he's. I'm not going to use the word romanticizing. He's creating a whole way of life from the brokenness.
He's giving him
God
status.
wants you. In Israel, God wants you, so you can really connect to him. But my father, I don't know if he really wants me.
Okay, right. So,
Going too far.
but healing happens when the boy and the father can articulate their pain of separation.
Especially the father, both need to want.
Fine, but even if the father taka is toit mashiga, yeah, but I can acknowledge that pain, and if I'm not acknowledging the pain, it's not that it's not there.
No.
I'm broken without acknowledging that I'm broken. So
What's the better option I have here?
there's no generalizations. Every person's life is individual, but the concept is that I have to be able to identify who I am. That I'm part of Baruch. I'm not separated, and it hurts me. Yeah, it hurts me that I didn't have that father. It hurts me, but yeah, because it's who I am. It's part of my real connections. And if I can do that, I can heal much faster. I can heal much better. Because the other way, I'm just covering it up. I'm just repressing it. You understand? It's not like it's not there. I'm just denying it. I'm just covering it because I don't want it to come to the surface. Huh?
Shutting off conversation. Shutting off communication.
Shutting off conversation.
Communication,
Right.
yeah.
A couple gets into an argument, right? And he picks up his hands and he says, I just can't deal with you. And you leave the room. Yeah, so what happened?
No tikkun. There's no tikkun.
And you stay in two rooms forever, emotionally. And then you say, oh, I don't need this person. They're just a nuisance. So I'll do myself much better. Right? But it's not always the case that way. It's the other way around. You were hurt. You're connected. And you got hurt. So identify that. Your nitzutzas want to be together, and they don't feel they could be together. So instead of identifying the pain of the shvira, you're saying, oh, there was no shvira. I'm meant to be alone. I'm meant to be in a fight with you forever. Really? You're not meant to be in a fight with me forever. It's betraying you. Vaharaya, you're not happy as a result. It's not like you feel so good and elated. Tomorrow you're smoking weed. Why? You're so good, you're so happy. Because you're miserable. Right? Then you're drinking at the Kiddush. Then you're on the web for 4 hours a night. Surfing, not the yeshiva.net. That's nicht gefährlich. That was just a commercial, Rabbi.
I have a problem relating.
You understand what I'm saying? If you're so happy, why is the person running everywhere? Because he's not so happy. And the reason he's not so happy is because there's a nitzutz there. There's connection. I want to be connected, and I'm hurt. And if I could speak about that hurt, yeah, so maybe I could repair it. Maybe I can't repair it. Maybe I can't repair it. But I'm present. I'm feeling what I need, and then I could work to ways. I need a father. I needed a father. So I have to find how I can help myself heal. But by denying it, I'm not helping myself heal. All I'm doing is distracting myself more and more from that pain and creating a reality that's a substitute for who I am. And how good can that feel? This is important stuff.
So addiction is more a denial?
Of course.
Going into a world of
All addiction is a distraction. As the great recovery people say, addiction, I always say this, addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the solution. Of course, I'm suffering from something. We say addiction is a problem. No, addiction is the solution. It's nice to say addiction is the problem because then I don't have to take accountability. I just say, look at these crazy addicts. That's not really the problem. The problem is what happened before the addiction. What this girl was feeling before the addiction. But I don't want to go there because then I have to look at myself. I got to look at my house. I got to look at my school. I got to look at my shul. Right? Who wants to do that? All I want to say is this girl or this boy is a crazy addict. And that's their problem. Get them out of the addiction. I don't want to say the addiction is not the problem. The addiction is their solution. They were running from somewhere. This girl was miserable in her environment. Now maybe she has a lot of challenges. Again, this is not about blaming anybody. It's never about that. The moment it's a blame game, it's another shviras hakelim. Blaming is also shviras hakelim because I'm just busy bringing out how bad you are and how good I am. So it's never about that, but it is about identifying what the struggle was. And for that, I have to look. I got to go this way, not this way. Right? See why she went to addiction. What was the shavira? There was a brokenness here. There was a brokenness that was needed to be compensated for. So she went to addiction because that gave her some relief, some identity. Her nitzuts needed some oxygen, so the oxygen became toxic, carbon dioxide, literally. Instead of getting oxygen that it can help it. But this nitzutz, this is what we said, the nitzutz is in klippus. It's very covered up. It's very, very broken because the bay is like completely detached and the little spark now is completely covered up for what it really is. What is it really? It's a spark. It's a spark of divinity. It's a spark of godliness. It resonates, right? It resonates, huh? How do you know something is true in life? You know it's true. That's how you know it's true, right? You know it's true.
addict has a lot of emotion then.
Addicts? Yeah, I always say Dr. Tversky, the famous teacher, told me that the addicts are the most sensitive and spiritual people among us. He says they deal with all the lies that everybody else deals with. The only thing is they can't deal with the lies, so they go into addiction. He says most other people, they let it slide off them. Next, who doesn't know that there's hypocrisy? Big deal. There's corruption. So what? Move on. Right? Go to the Kiddush. Eat some jalapeno herring and sponge cake and weitergegangen. Like, relax. Don't take it so seriously. But spiritual people and sensitive people, they need much more. They need much more purity. Their nitzotzes are starving for much more. And when they don't get them, they break much more. They run away much more because I can't find it here, I go there. This is what he told me. Very profound idea. Is it true about every single one? I can't say it's true about every single one. He told me 60 years of experience, I can tell this to you. You speak to them, and you'll see. They have a lot of issues because they destroyed their lives. But you will not find people as spiritual, as sensitive as they. They didn't have the direction they need. They didn't have the protection they need. They didn't have the guidance they need. You know, and the disease took them over. But it's very real. It was very interesting to hear from him. Shia Twersky, Rabbi Abraham Twersky. In a way, it is easier. In a way, when you speak to them, and I've done a lot of events with them, in Shiurim, they're first of all, their egos have been shattered, so they're very honest. So it's a pleasure to speak to them. That's number one. They're very vulnerable. When people destroy their lives, they don't have egos. They don't come to the table with a ganze Stel, you know? They don't. It's like, here, what are you going to tell me, Rabbi? Why? Let's hear. Entertain me. They don't have that. They're vulnerable. They're without clothes, without levusha. I don't mean physical. I mean they're without cover-ups. So that's number one. And number two, they get it. They're typhus deep things. But sometimes the disease of addiction has been so powerful that they're very stuck. They need tremendous help. I mean, their own help. They need courage. It's a.
You see in society, people end up here, where you're describing in the attic or something, than the other people which you described a minute ago that live in their own bubble.
Always, yeah.
So if you're looking at healing, this is that we can talk about it and cry about it and complain about it and understand it after the fact. How can that be healed? It's all as you keep saying, a result of the environment. And Halkaini,
Goralaini, Rishasaini.
all that stuff. So what's the idea? We all grew up in certain homes, and every one of us had benefits of the nurture and the nature. And
so I want to tell you something. When you're in a very, very good place, in a very wholesome place, doesn't mean you don't struggle. But it means when you're working on your own bir hanitzaitzis, you could see it in other people, and their own limitations and struggles don't affect you so much. And most importantly, you have to realize that deep down, those who sit like this and they're unbreachable are often yearning for it so much more. Everybody's human. Everybody cries once in a while under their blanket. So if I get nispal from their klippa, so this is an expression, don't get nispal from the klippa. What does it mean practically? When you're presenting me with a hard shell, the last thing I should be doing is taking that seriously. I almost have to have compassion. I'm like, okay, there's a shell over there, without judging you. Because the moment I do that, now your shell already went into me. But if I don't have to take it so seriously, and I could look a little deeper, then ultimately, at least many people, not everybody, there's a certain, remember, everybody has a neshama. Huh? They don't have to detach so much. But you don't detach. Don't detach from them, so they won't have to detach from you. Now, sometimes I'm too weak. I'm like, I can't deal with these people. I'm out of here. Okay, fine. So I'm having my moment. So I need my own chizuk. That's fine, right? But the worst is to take their shells seriously. They're not so serious. They're their own protective. Everyone is trying to protect themselves.
My question was not how do I deal with it. I understand, and I also understand the people that live in that bubble that all it takes is one poke.
One poke, yeah.
I'm asking, look at us as a greater community. Okay, our community, however wide you want to go. I don't know what the percentage breakdown is. How many people live a wholesome, healthy life from when they were brought up in a wholesome. There's a percentage, and there's a percentage who end up whether the furthest extreme of addiction or down that spectrum, and then those who their disease is being in that bubble. When we talk about it, we have to get to 40 and 50 years old to start understanding that I'm asking, as a community, as a world all over, how is this going to change? How is this going to heal? All these people, these addicts and all these bubble people are gentle,
Most of the people going through this and working on themselves, if you ask them if they want to go back and be in a lifestyle of everything being okay, they wouldn't feel even successful. That's their challenge, to go through and fix it.
I understand, but at the same time we're having generations and generations of people getting more and more messed up. And so
Rabbi Jacobson is trying to teach us to be ambassadors of light and teach more people to be ambassadors of light.
Ambassadors of love, light, and hope. Remember them, Aaron. 3 words.
Love, light, and hope.
Ambassadors of love, light, and hope.
today my question is not
Love is the achdus that we talk about. light is the nitzutz, right? And therefore it results in hope.
You mentioned Nefesh before, this organization, and I have no idea what it is, but I'm sure there's hundreds of people that are trying to get the community to heal, but there has to be a shift in the nature of the nurture and how you set up life. That this should take a turn. That's my question.
Not so easy.
Big picture.
Not so easy. It takes a lot of time,
Okay.
a lot of work.
You're thinking big picture.
I'm trying to understand how is this going to change.
It's like the son's Rebbe, you know, he thought he could change all Europe when he became Rebbe and he saw...
Chaim Tzanze.
You're telling me there's a big giant boulder rolling downwards and every little piece of sand is supposed to find their way out of that.
Gotta start, you know, we gotta start with ourselves, just try to be as
I
good as we
understand.
can.
Today I'm not asking an individual question.
Usually he asks individual questions. Today he's worried for Klal Yisrael.
No, I feel good today about I feel
painted a very bleak picture.
I'm not painting the picture. I didn't even give it a percentage, but it is a percentage.
Well,
No, but
And I think it's overwhelmingly to the negative side, but it's my own thought.
like for me, my perspective of you is like if you
We're not talking about me
No,
today.
no,
I'm
no,
not here.
no,
I'm in a very good place today. I'm
no,
good.
you when you
I'm
smile,
connected.
when you
He's just
smile-
worried for everybody else who's not in a...
When you
I know what it is.
smile, you don't know the effect that it has on other people. It's unbelievable. I'm telling
You
you.
mentioned Shabbos morning with Yaakov.
That's the Shlomo.
Is it about
Just walk around smiling.
He
The
could
word
change
baruch
the-
is
change
also
the-
about the shirish, no base, kof, reish.
Is what? Is
220, 200.
Yeah.
Is that we learned it in Tanya? I
We
don't
learned it in the Maimah, yeah. B'choir is the Beis and the Chaf and the Reish. It's the multiplicity of life. It's probably another reason why he uses this word. Because Beis is number 2 of the units, and Reish is number 2 of the hundreds, and Chaf is number 2 of the tens. It may be another reason.
Somewhere else this word
Yeah,
is
yeah.
metaphor.
I don't know. I don't remember.
For me, since bittul, when we grow up, bittul means zero, that you're nothing. And we keep on struggling, asking again and again,
Yeah, yeah.
Always it's oneness. I think for me, it's the first time I have such a clarity in what means bittul towards birth, because the bias is still a bias. I don't know who is more, the bias of the Reich, and it's not never going to be the same, but still they have to be together, which is a very, I mean, the Shviyas HaKayim is also this, that you're nothing.
Yeah. Fakert, bittul as nothing. Bittul, when you say bittul means you're nothing, that's part of Shviras HaKelim.
I went to the Bris yesterday and I spoke to my brother. I said, we're learning now about Shviyas HaKayim. He's like a Shia.
I know your brother, yeah?
And he tells me, listen, we are after Shviyas HaKayim already. There's nothing what we can do. It's already, no, he was very innocent. Like, this is not stuff for me.
It's an ancient history.
We already broke.
10,000 times today. 15 billion years ago, Shviras HaKelim. He's broken, that's it. Maybe in Olam Haba you'll get some schar.
I think Bittel's understanding that you're part of it.
The whole word. That's the Ganze he says clearly. In other words, the Beis separate is much less powerful. It's a Beis, okay?
But also
In a way, it's more egotistical.
But also the oneness.
When the Beis becomes egotistical, it becomes weak. It doesn't have the oil. And I gave a mushal, you cut off a hand because it wants to be independent. Now the hand is bittul.
But it's more the opposite. Also, when it comes when it comes together, which is bittul, it's not a zero. It's still the bias.
Yeah, the same base. Fakert. It becomes a keli, a conduit for the Ein Sof, yeah.
When the keli breaks, the tumah goes away.
Huh?
When the keli breaks, the tumah went away.
When a keli breaks, the tumah goes away because tumah only exists with its kedusha. You have to understand that. We learned in the Gemara, you remember? Tumah doesn't exist with there's no kedusha. Right?
So it has to be whole to
An animal can't become tameh. A person can become tameh. Yeah? And a Jew has the highest levels of tumah. And when a Jew dies, chas v'shalom, there's more levels of tumah than anywhere else. The worst tumah, why? Just because he was a helik yid, a fine yid? Because tumah is always where there's potential for kedusha. Tumah is the tumah wants to get kedusha. When you're very good, when there's a broken keli, there's no kedusha there, so there's no tumah there. There won't be tumah where there's no kedusha. Tumah is always where there's great potential for kedusha. In a keli that's whole, there's great potential for kedusha. You asked a good question. You understand? So there could be tumah, yeah. There could be tumah. It could be misused.
No, the tumah doesn't want to even go there.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
If I'm a beggar and I want to steal money, yeah, you rob a bank. You don't rob another beggar. I'm not saying this to do it. I mean, you don't rob another beggar. What are you gonna get? 50 cents? I don't know. Maybe him for sale, you'll get a little more.
So he doesn't want to bother going there.
You go to the bank. You go where the money is. Tumah doesn't go to schnorres.
So the base that's separated from the baruch can't have tumah?
He asked a good question. Halacha, a broken keli, becomes tahir.
Sounds like it's good.
So it's good.
Yeah.
Sounds like
It's good, right? It's almost like the halacha should say, go break all your vessels and they'll become tahir.
Yeah.
The answer is, I'm saying, it becomes tahir because there's no wholeness to it anymore.
So what about the base that's
It's
separated
not useful for a
But
person.
also sometimes you have to break the person.
That's another inyan. That's another. A deeper inyan is that sometimes the shvira, the leiv nishbar, can create a deeper wholeness. That's a separate inyan. Also true. Also true. When the kalim come back after shviras HaKalim, they're much deeper than before.
Gula Klolis must go after Gula Protus.
Usually. Geula Klolis is Geula.
Before Shift, everybody will need to be there.
We don't have to wait so long. We waited enough.
I know.
Geula Klolis is to get. What is Geula Klolis? Geula Klolis is just Geula Protis on a mass level. That's what it's the same thing. It's not this Geula Protis and this Geula Klolis. Geula Klolis is when the Geula Protis really expands.
That's why if everybody keeps Shabbos, so we're all one. Mashiach comes.
Yeah, similar.
He is
Yeah.
mainly the reason.
Yeah. There's a word that Balatanya once said that there were neshamas like Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Lagabe them there was no churban beis hamikdash. In other words, they were in galus with all the symptoms, but there was no churban. What do you mean? Physically there was a churban. Physically there was a churban, but the state of mind of geula they had. So there was no churban. That's what he says. Lefnei neshamas hagvayis k'may Rashbi lo nechrav habayis klal.
seems like the Lubavitch Rebbe was like that.
Living in a state of geula. The Rebbe Taka lived that way, but because he was a Rebbe, so he felt the experience of the world, so therefore he was also in galus.
I never understood how we can listen to so many people's problems and break.
Thank God
It's not even
There's a story of
Shem the Denver,
the what?
Denver, no? Burning in the tree by
The sneh?
the snare. Within the other snare.
Bush.
The bushes. Forgetting how to say.
Thorn bush. What?
Ima yanaychi b'tzara.
Says God wasn't such a bush because he wanted to feel the pain, no?
Yeah, Ima yanaychi b'tzara. Why he revealed himself to Moshe in a sneh, a thorn bush, to say that I'm with the Jewish people in their distress. Okay, Be'ezer Hashem, shall have a beautiful day and a unified day.
That was also part of
Yeah.
his accordion
You remember him?
in the late 60s.
Eli Lipsker.
There's this
Yeshiva Yisrael in Queens, and he used to come twice a week.
With his accordion, yeah?
there's that happened in Jersey City, this tragedy that happened.
Yeah.
This big fat black guy.
Yesterday was the Levaya, right, of Deutsch.
This big fat black
Sham Yinkum Dama, yeah?
This big fat black guy from Jersey City made a video and he does he gets rid of garbage. That's his job. And he said, anybody that needs help, call me. You know, the Jews have been good to me since they've been moved here, and if you need help moving the people that got hurt, if you need help moving stuff out of the store that got messed up, come, I'll help you, I won't charge you, you know, and everything. So we called him last night. He left his phone number. My son called him, said, hey, you know, we just want to say if there was more people like you in the world would be a better place. And,
That's nice.
you know, I got on the phone, I said, hey, you know, if you were here, I'd give you a big hug. And
He liked that, huh?
We have to start like in Europe. I don't think there's any shul that doesn't have a guard. I remember I was in Amsterdam and I came to one of the shuls. I wanted to go in. They wouldn't let me in Shabbos morning. They asked me questions, you know, with Parshas, you know, with Muslims, all these questions.
Wow.
Just in order to get in.
But this wasn't a shul, this was a store.
It was a store, yes. That's the problem. Yeah.
Early airport.
Huh?
Like an early airport. You go out, you have so many questions.
Every grocery store you have security, I don't know.
You can't. The shuls, I think they're red, so they want to start with
Shuls, you need security.
they want to
Yeah.